Hello there, outliers. Niiamah is Shang here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. Uh, Today, we're going to take things in a place that allows us to slow down in order to speed up. And I've brought on two amazing outliers who are here to share about their experience to help you as you're continuing to level up your income and your impact. And both of them, the way I'll say this is this: they're both very playful, but they don't play. So let's go ahead and bring them on here. We'll start off with Kehla, and then we'll go to JJ. Kehla, it's good to have you here. Would you mind introducing yourself and letting us know about the game you are playing?
Yes, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to have this conversation. So, my name's Kayla. I live in Victoria, BC in Canada, and I'm a human design and Gene Keys business coach. So, I work with women, female entrepreneurs who have a lot of coaching related to spirituality, inner healing, inner child work. And the game that I'm playing right now is I'm getting really loud around what it means to collaborate to grow your business because what I'm seeing a lot of are people are still trying to play the game and the algorithm, posting on social media, trying to grow their business alone. And I think that it's creating a lot more work. And the coaching industry, as an example, just doesn't operate that way. And so the game I'm playing is really getting my people more connected to one another, looking at doing collaborations like this, getting myself out there beyond just posting on social media, because I think these kinds of conversations are what actually make a difference for people. And this is a real way to create trust with people. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm glad that you are here. I'm glad that we get to collaborate in this moment. And how do I say it? Outliers, pay attention to what happens in the conversation because there's so many things we could say about collaboration, but like this is going to be an experience of it. All right. Awesome. JJ, how about you? Let us get to know you in the game that you're playing right now.
First of all, thank you for the invitation, Niiamah, and thanks to the entire Outliers community. My name is JJ Ruescas. I'm a human optimization strategist, which means that I am a guinea pig myself in continuous optimization of being a human. So that is the actual game that I'm playing. I work mostly with leaders, helping them to first avoid burnout, but in second place, find continuous ways to optimize not only in their role as leaders, but also as humans. And as I mentioned, the infinite game, as James Carls will say, for me is continuous human optimization.
I appreciate you being here, JJ. I'm excited for our conversation. You said I'm a guinea pig myself, and I was like, that is quite interesting. One of the reasons that I think that I'm going to start off the conversation in that space there, because both of you, well, let me put it this way. One of the reasons that piqued my interest is that as a leader in this space here, one of the challenges that I find, and it comes up with my clients as well, is like, should I know everything? Right? How can I go and like create my business? How can I go out and like continue to grow and grow my influence, grow my clients, be even wanted to be thought of as a collaborator if I am not showing up as knowing all, right? And the vulnerability that's involved in it. And when you mentioned guinea pig, I felt that was like a really cool proactive framing for letting you also be a part of the journey and not have to be perfect and continue to grow in real time. So JJ, let me start off with you on this. I'd love to get your thoughts around like why you use the framing and how that like actually gives you the room to not have to have it all lined up, even though we know, and let's just have the general assumption, you know what you're talking about. You're good, you're good at what you do. That's not the question.
Let's
Yeah.
assume. Let's assume.
Let's just assume you're just good at what you do. But I did feel that additional space. I was wondering if you can speak to that.
Yeah. Um, mm, it doesn't matter how confident a person portrays. We all have those blind spots, and we have mistakes that we're always incurring into. And in my perspective, it is not about the mistakes, but it's through those mistakes how fast we can find the just a handful of things that need to go on the direction that we want to go. Because of that, I have this mindset of what I had to reframe this for myself, which is the word fail. For me, fail means fast acquisition of important lessons. Fast acquisition of important lessons. Obviously, if I'm going to be smart, I try to minimize the impact of the fail or make it micro failure so that I can have micro learnings quickly. And the only way to do so is by putting myself out there, or in a structure, a very experimental mindset, being two things at the same time. First of all, the scientist, but at the same time, the guinea pig. So both things are there in tandem. We're playing both roles to start getting this thing rolling and understanding, as you mentioned, that we will never know enough, but with the little things that we know, we can course correct to where we want to get.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me, Kayla. I saw you smiling a bit here. Curious if anything comes to mind. Maybe like, yeah, let's just play off it for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I know an acronym for FAIL, and it's first attempt in learning. So I love that we both have a different take on it, but ultimately it's going to be bringing forth similar aspects of, being willing to learn, being willing to be the scientist, the guinea pig, being willing to have that beginner's mindset at all times, even if you know what it is that you're talking about. I think that is just that state of curiosity is really important. So I just thought, that's why I smiled. I thought, oh, I know the acronym. And then he said something different. I thought, oh, what? That's so cool.
Yeah, I love playing with this here. One of the elements, I'm going to keep staying on this element of the guinea pig here because I want to play out with the element of being like the expert. I specifically create a space when I invite people on where I'm like, I'm not interested in your expertise, I'm interested in your experience, knowing that like when your experience really comes through, we get that you're an expert. But like, how does that play? Like, let me just ask you, like, I think the question I'm asking here is around vulnerability, and how have you been able to the words in my mind come out to like leverage or incorporate, but like I think there's a softer element of this. I think it's less like engineered and more just saying like what is the role of vulnerability been for you in building your businesses, and when have you seen like the returns on that? Kayla, why don't we start with you on this one, and then we'll go to JJ.
Yes. I think for me, vulnerability is everything because it brings a human component to being somebody that I coach clients. Like I work with people and they want to work with a person. Otherwise, they would just look for systems and robots to do everything for them. And I think that when we are being vulnerable, it gives not only ourselves the permission to go through an experience with a clean slate and clear eyes. It really allows that person receiving to witness us as, even though I know what I'm talking about and I've achieved these specific things, like I'm still human, I'm still going to F up and make mistakes, and that's just how it is. And so I find for me that vulnerability, like I've been in business for over 5.5 years now, and I've always shared my journey. I've been very transparent. Oh, I still have a 9 to 5 scaling my business. Oh, it took me this long to hit 6 figures. Oh, I was applying for 9 to 5s in the 4th year of my business. Like I was always very vulnerable. And I think for me, that allowed me to integrate the quote fails a lot easier so that I could continue to move things forward rather than getting stopped by the things that I quote didn't think were working. So it just creates this spaciousness. That's what I really feel when it comes to vulnerability. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes releasing judgment, and it takes releasing the fact that people may be triggered by your vulnerability. But if you're honestly being true to yourself, that's what matters. And it's what that person is experiencing, and the filter and how they see you, that's what they're experiencing. It's not your vulnerability. It's very interesting. It's very nuanced to say it that way. But I think that it's really been a muscle to work, releasing the fear of looking bad, releasing the need to be right, and just continuing to be that person that's willing to learn.
JJ, go with it. Like I'm gonna keep things a little bit open. It's just the three of us here, so I'm like
Yeah.
I can interrupt each time and come in, but I feel like we have the opportunity for something that just feels really organic. So yeah, I think
I'm still absorbing Kayla's words, like, but they're
yeah.
getting into my system right now. I liked very much, Kayla, what you mentioned about this notion that vulnerability is what creates connection between humans. And regardless of how many systems we have, how many platforms, even like this, through Zoom, for example, we are still connecting nervous system to nervous system, maybe through a proxy, a digital proxy, but in nature, as mammals, for example, what happens when two mammals encounter? Normally, one of them will go like this and like, look at this. This is the vulnerable part where you can bite or hit, right? So that's a sign of trust. And if we are not willing to have that trust with another person, we're going to still have shallow connections. And shallow connections will lead to shallow results. Nothing bad with that. Nothing bad. I mean, I don't need to be as vulnerable with the waiter on my next restaurant or something like that. There are levels of trust in that. And at the same time, the depth of vulnerability, I do believe that for each one of us as leaders or creators of communities is going to never end. It's going to be another infinite game when we find new levels of vulnerability and new levels and new levels and new levels of depth within ourselves of vulnerability. And that is going to reflect with the people that we connect. So such a huge topic of
Yeah,
vulnerability.
JJ, you got me when someone says something good, but you're just like, oh man. So JJ, what came up for me as you were saying this was, I actually just got off a call with my dad right before I came here. All right, and I wasn't expecting the call, and he was asking me how business was going, and I was telling him like, I feel good. Like, I started out like fairly like meh around it, and then I got in, and I was like, oh wait, no, I have the systems are in place. Like this is good. There's good things going, and things tend to shift up. But I felt myself asking myself, oh, am I going after the like bringing in the right people? Right. That was one of the questions that was in mind. Am I doing the work there? And JJ, what ended up confronting me in this moment was, is it about the external? Am I bringing in things? Or is it more about the internal? Am I willing to go to like create the levels of vulnerability and depth within myself such that that gets reflected out in a way that is just natural? Maybe the system just is the system. And instead of like looking to see, oh, the number of people who talk to me and they're like, I just need to find people who will be able to pay me. And if they can't pay me, like, right, it's like, there's more to it than just that. You just brought me into that level of like, how does the inner game play with getting those external results? I'd be curious how it works for both of you, because you all have like skills upon skills with playing with the inner game and getting people results.
That's a very good point. Something that I'm realizing the more that I develop my own business is that for me, business is a spiritual game and it's a mental game. The moment that I decided to make the choice, the moment that I chose to take the path that I'm into right now, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I had lots of positive thoughts around that. I was like, yeah, I can do it. And then suddenly life, right, when I'm like this, like crawling on the corner, it comes and kicks me back again, right? And that's okay. It's something that I chose. It is something that I chose, and I will never regret about this. Now, with that being said, it's also a matter of, okay, what is it that I need to learn from all of this? Because the way that we're developing, in this case, I'm going to talk only about myself. The way that I'm developing my business is forcing me to develop as a leader. My theory is that the leader, if he or she is not upgrading, or how I call it, optimizing, then he or she become the bottleneck of the entire organization or the culture. That's the reason I'm myself the first one who's putting myself out there and finding the edges of like, oh, this is crunchy, but I'm taking notes of this, and then I can come back and tell people, this is what I found here. I have expertise in this and this and this areas. I have no other expertise here, but it seems that you can have expertise there. And what I personally foster is, how do we can learn from each other? How can we learn from each other? What else can we learn from each
I'm loving this so much. And I think the piece that really stood out to me is just becoming an entrepreneur. I also was like, oh, I don't know what I'm getting into. Like I was just so clueless. Like I just look back, I'm like, oh, Kehla, you're so cute. Like you had no idea what you were doing. Like, and it just kept going and going, and got worse and it got better. And I'm like, oh, this is it. This is the roller coaster. And so it's really funny because my fiance, he's in the process of growing a business online, and he's in the more beginner stages, like I'd say in the first year. And I've been doing this for almost 6 years. And he was just sitting down with me the other day and we're having dinner, and he's like, Kehla, like, how do you just keep showing up and keep posting and keep selling? Like the times where you had no clients, where you had no income. And he's asking me this, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking back at the version of myself when that was happening and how clueless I was. And I looked at him and I said, you're going to hate this so much. But all I did was I just kept going. Like there's no other way to say it. I said I literally just kept going. I refined my messaging. I invested in strategic things about business. I invested in myself to get better in terms of stepping into my leadership, I said, I literally just kept going, and everyone hates that answer because it's not a quick fix. It's not an easy answer. It's not, oh, this will feel better tomorrow. It's a choice. And then you just keep going. And you have to trust that. But I think if you keep going and doing the same things, that's the nuance. That doesn't work. But if you keep going and you really look at how you optimize things, and JJ, obviously you attest to this because that's the nature of your work. I'm talking about optimizing strategies and systems as well as yourself as a human. That's when things shift, but it takes time. Like I can see now the things I'm doing in my business right now in this moment, building and collaborating, launching certain things, connecting with clients in a certain way. There's very green seeds at the moment. And I know myself and I think, well, Kehla, you might think, oh, this isn't happening fast enough, but you know what you're doing right now is right. Give it 2-3 months. Just hold on to it and just give it a few more months. Things are going to show. And it takes this level of patience that you never thought could possibly exist, especially when you're being patient for a thing you don't really know what it's going to look like, but it's going to come to fruition at some point.
I crossing fingers, right? Like I know that somehow something is gonna happen out of this. I love that you said also, Kehla, about this reflection that we have on other people, right? And I can see myself how other people, I have friends that have 25, 30 years of experience in entrepreneurship, and how when I'm talking to them, they're like, "Oh, you're so cute," and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now we can relate. They don't look at me from a top down. I mean, we're at this in the level of where we are at. We're at the level where we're at. And at the same time, I can see how this identity that you're seeing right now did not exist 1 year ago. And that identity did not exist 1 or 2 years ago. So this thing is accelerating. And I know that this identity that you're seeing, Niiamah, if we meet again in 1 year, in 6 months, I bet is not going to exist, or it's going to be a new version of that one.
It's really fun for me because as we're having this conversation, I actually saw us 20 years down the line, right? Like it was just like, and it was just this component of like, you remember what we were working on then. You remember who we used to be then, you know? And it's like there's something in that that actually just brought a lot of space to this current moment where it's like we have like we're in what it is right now, but to be able to look back and to think to myself and be like, oh, I'm going to really, really appreciate that Niiamah who was figuring it out then, because that Niiamah, that skill of figuring out is still applying like 20 years later. I'm excited. I'm excited for all this. And I thank you all. I think that element, Kaylee, you're talking about like, you know, the green seeds now and being patient. I want to play that out just a little bit further because I went out to the 20 years component of it all. And you said something, Kayla, I don't think anyone else has ever said in the way, like to me, in the way that you said it, which was like you're being patient for a thing that you don't even really know what it's gonna look like at the end. And I think that's like hidden on a distinction that like I can't really articulate to people. It's like I know that something's gonna work. I don't know what it's gonna look like at the end, and I'm here in the midst trying to create it. Like if you're listening, I'm just like I don't even know how to describe it there. Um, I want to ask right now for each of you, and then we're going to move on to a different topic here. But for any outlier who's listening right now, who feels like they're in the crunchy parts of it, who feels like they're like in that patience and like the green seeds are coming in, and realistically, it's not like they're like starting their business for like the first time. It just might be like they're in year 4 and things still haven't necessarily clicked. They've had wins, you know, they know that something works. I would love for you to just like share like whatever you got for an outlier that's thinking about that here. You know, Kayla, why don't we start with you? We'll go to JJ afterwards, and then we'll take things in a different direction.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that would have, if I'm thinking of the version of myself who was in there, you know, third, fourth year of business and things were not working, I was caught up in doing busy work. I would be, oh, I'm posting, I'm doing this. Like I was justified in my struggle. And I'm saying I'm doing all the things and it's not working, but I couldn't actually tell you why things weren't working or why they were working when they did work. And so I think that getting that level of curiosity and really taking into consideration, okay, how does this actually work? if I'm going to speak to my people on social media, am I actually addressing their problems and desires? Can my communication be better? Am I creating opportunities to connect with them? Collaborative community things to build trust. You really look at what it is that you're doing and seriously ask yourself, am I actually doing what I need to be doing? Or am I doing what I think I should be doing? Or am I doing what I think I need to manifest this really easily? There's actually so much work that goes into business. And I think people get caught in their head because they justify their struggle. But it's like you have to move beyond that. You need to look at being radically responsible for what's working, what's not working, and getting curious to understand why it is working and why it's not. Because when you understand that, that's when you can replicate your success, because you know when things work and when they don't. Because for me, when I was in my 3rd or 4th year, I knew how to do the things: email marketing, post on social media, host a masterclass, do a launch. I knew how to do those things, but I wasn't doing them well. So that's the difference. And so it's just, again, coming into a space of curiosity, not judging yourself because you're constantly learning. You've never done this before. If you've already done it, you would have the results that you want. That means that you're still learning. So I think having that compassion as well is really important.
JJ, I'm going to come to you in just a bit, but I want to stay with Kayla on something real quick here. She said you couldn't tell why things were working, right? Make that real for me, because like as I hear you say that, it takes me to like I had pushed away math and economics for a long time. And it like, I remember reading something where someone was like, here goes a number of people who saw it. What was the conversion? How much did you make from it? And out of basically there was just, I was like, how did I leave math out of business? You know? And
Yeah.
when that happened, I was like, oh, I know it was the grounding things that came for me to start to understand what's working and what's not. I would love for you to talk about like even just one instance, make it real for us here around how you do it. And I'm going to put us as close to getting the dollar over the line, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I like maybe I can figure out what's not working with my social media, but they're not
Yeah.
trying to build an audience. They're trying to build a business, you know.
Yeah.
And I'll be curious about like what you saw there.
Yes. So 2 years ago, I shared earlier, I do human design and Gene Keys business coaching. And 2 years ago, I created a Gene Keys business guide. This is a PDF. It was customized. It would take people into the depths of their Gene Keys from a business perspective. So basically, I launched this for the first time, and I had over a 5-figure launch within the span of a couple of weeks in December of 2022. And prior to that, I had been posting on social media probably for 6 weeks every single day, talking about the Gene Keys. And I did all this posting, all this posting. I opened the doors. I launched this thing. There was like 30 people that signed up and bought the thing. And then when I tried to launch it again, I couldn't recreate this 5-figure launch. And I was like, well, what happened? Like, I just, if I do all this posting and then I share about it and I do a sale, maybe people will buy. I could not replicate the same results. So now knowing what I know, I look back and I would have structured it differently. I didn't know different forms of content to post. I didn't have a real structure in terms of my launch. It was just like, I'm just going to give all this value, share all the knowledge that I know, blast the internet, do a sale, do this thing. There was no plan in terms of, okay, I'm going to launch this quarterly. This is how I should price it. These are different forms of content to take people through problem awareness. This is how I can have this freebie option, or like I need to build a new audience because I just sold to the first 3,000 people for 3 weeks. They probably don't want to buy again. They're not going to buy again because it's a one-time product. So there's things I didn't know. And I just thought, oh, if I just give a ton of value, improve myself, people are going to buy the thing. And that's not true. So since then, I've learned proper structural strategies. Like, okay, if I launch this thing once, I need to consider how to shift it for the next time, or grow my audience first before I launch it again, because the same people aren't going to buy the same thing. So that's how, in that specific situation, from a strategic business lens, I was really excited about the thing I was selling. I was in energetic alignment. Like, obviously I talk about energetics in my work, but I'm also very strategic. That did not carry the success of this product. And so that is a very specific example. If you want me to get even more specific, I can, but I think that paints a picture of what people have probably experienced, where they think, oh my God, I have this thing. This is it. I'm going to just launch this all the time and make all this money. And that's not what happened. Straight up.
I'm laughing with you if you don't mind, because I'm seeing JJ over here too, because it's like it's the pain. Like as you said, I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. I've been there. JJ, what's coming up for you around this?
One of the things, that makes complete sense. I've been also in that same boat. It's like, let's do this because we don't know what we don't know. So what we do know is that we are very optimistic and that we're gonna put everything on the table. So we put it there. but there is a feedback. So we're looking, as entrepreneurs, we're looking for feedback quickly. Once we got the feedback, now it's, okay, all of this seems to be working. Let's do it again, which turns into superstition thinking, right? If I dance the rain dance, and if I put all of this, theoretically, I'm going to have the same results. And slowly we start coming to the realization that, oh, no, this is superstition thinking. These are the elements that will work. And part of the diving into putting things out there and getting feedback quickly, that is what I was talking about, referring to fail fast, right? Fast acquisition, important lessons, fast, as quickly as fast. So I resonate with you. I've done similar things. And now when someone is in just to wrap this up, and when someone is in this state of the crunchy moment when the business is not working, it's not bringing revenue, at that moment, it doesn't matter how much thinking we can apply at some point to get us through that moment. I've been there several times. I've been there in the moment when I couldn't even pay my rent, and I was so committed to what I was doing. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should do what I'm doing. I'm just saying this is how my operating system works. I'm fucking stubborn. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I can say the word, but I did.
Oh, you just said it, so I can guarantee you are able to say the word. You're fine, man. Just
Thank
keep
you.
going. Keep going, JJ.
So there are two things here: the mental aspect, but also this inner strength, whatever we want to call it. And one of the things that for me has helped me and helps me and will help me in the future is talking about how we all go through ups and downs. Is this quote by Terence McKenna? I'm not going to tell the entire quote, but it goes along the lines of, "Nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up." Tiramisu, for an inner joke. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a feather bed.
All right. Well, you threw out about hurling into the abyss. So I want to go. I was gonna go and like keep things and like tell me about feedback, but now I'm like, let's go to the abyss, right? So look, I want to. I like to keep things real here, and it's outliers edge, and sometimes I focus a lot on the outlier, and I forget about the edge part, right? And so now that we're hanging out with y'all, I want y'all to take us to your edge right now, right? Let us. Do you mind sharing with us a project that you're working on, something that like is exciting to you, all right? You don't know how it's gonna it's gonna end. You know, to Kayla, to your point, it's like I know I'm planting the seeds on this. I'm not necessarily sure what it's gonna look like at the end, but I'm patient for it. Would you mind taking us to something that right now that is currently in the unknown for you? Let us know about like what's working for you about it, what you're excited about, what's challenging you about it, and just bring it into the mix, and we'll see where we play with it from there.
Yeah, it's so funny. So when we connected and I saw that the channel was called The Outliers Edge, I thought, seriously, the edge, the word edge is a really big part of my brand. I literally have a mastermind called the Edge Mastermind, and it's about carving your edge as an entrepreneur through the lens of human design and gene keys. And so for me, this time last year, I started a signature program, and it was supporting entrepreneurs to build their signature program through the lens of human design and gene keys. And now this is blown up into the Edge Mastermind. It's a 6-month venture. And so I think from a strategic standpoint, I can see how I created this, launched it a couple months ago. I have some incredible women inside, and this is going to be a really big part of my business. And I'm just looking at it going into 2025, and I'm like, what is this going to turn into? Like, I don't know the kind of communities that are going to come from it, the connections, the collaborations. There's going to be different women coming through. How am I going to support them? Like, there's just a lot of curiosity in terms of capacity of, okay, who do I need to be to make sure they have the best experience? Who do I need to be as a business owner to make sure that I'm being well compensated for what it is that I'm delivering? What is it going to look like from a strategic standpoint to share this and sell this all the time, because it's evergreen? And it's like, this is pushing me to create my edge as a leader and an entrepreneur in this space. And I really love it because I'm being embodied in the work that it is that I'm teaching. And so I just love that finally, I shared this Gene Keys business guide. Is literally, all my clients have this inside the Edge Mastermind. And it's funny how it started as this 10K launch 2 years ago. And now it's like a drop in the bucket of what I do with my clients. And so I just love seeing the evolution. And like we said, like we don't really know where things are going to go. And I look back at all the little courses and things I launched over the years, and I somehow brought this into the Edge Mastermind. I'm like, oh my gosh, just when you think that things aren't working, it's the little things you bring together that create the big thing. And it can just shock you. If you just take a minute to look back on what you created and how you integrated that into future offers and things that you're selling, it's really amazing. And it just means that we are infinite the way that we can create things and support people with our work. So I think it's holding space for the Edge Mastermind, and I'm hitting my edge, my clients are hitting their edge, and it's so edgy and just so on brand, right? And that's something that I just have such a huge heart for it. Like it feels like an ecosystem that I have to take responsibility for and keep alive. And it's not just an offer, it's an ecosystem. And I think that's I like to use that metaphor with business. We don't have a business, we have an ecosystem. Imagine like a butterfly gardens, and inside of that, you need to have the right temperature. You need to have the butterflies. You need to have the bugs. You're going to have the flamingos. You're going to have the foliage. You need the light coming through, because all of that together is what creates the prosperity and the growth inside of that. And it's the same effing thing with business. And I love to paint this picture for people. So that's the edge that I'm dancing on. And it's just very aligned because it's the Edge Mastermind.
That's awesome. I keep playing. JJ, tell us about yours.
And first of all, I resonated so much what Kehla said. Yeah, we don't know how all of those little pieces that we have created in the past that may have just had a short burst of life and then ended, now are going to be part of what we are doing. We don't know that, right? So that's the beautiful of this. By the way, reminder, keep all your projects in Google Drive or somewhere else that you can go back to. That's very important. Now, in my case, I used to be a tech leader in the past. So the way that my mind works, like systemic, blah, 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 blah. So I dropped all of that career many years ago, right? But guess what? Nowadays, because of the advancement of AI, my mind started working again like, oh, but I can combine what I'm doing with all of the tech thing that I had, right? And so one of the things that I myself use as a guiding post in order to grow personally and as a business is what are called maturity models, or in what we call a system of ranking. Think about in terms of martial arts. A martial artist starts with what kind of belt? White, right? And then he goes to another belt once they crack the board, next one, and then next color, and the next color, and the top one is black, right? But there is a progression in all of this. And when I used to lead tech teams, I used to have that progression. I was able to, oh, they are here. So the next step is this and this. And effectively, boom, boom, and then next level. And then, oh, now they are there, next steps, boom, boom. So we had a path to do that. And so the idea that came to me is like, I can do the same thing for humans, for being this thing of being a human. No, I'm not talking about a class or a course from 1st to 10th grade. No. I'm talking about how do we assess individually where we are in the way that we operate the hardware, how we operate the software, how we co-regulate with other people. If we can assess where's the baseline, then we can know what's the next step without feeling overwhelmed, without feeling anything. Now, the funny thing is that now I have my maturity models. Guess what? I'm pairing that up with AI. So that is starting to become, first of all, a great lead magnet. Second, it already gave me the ideas, not only as a freebie, but you can go even in depth and have something so custom, so personalized that, and I can scale because I don't need to be there right anymore. So that's the next one.
Yeah, y'all, this is fun. This is really it's quite interesting to see how you keep expanding your games, and play that with that. The maturity models, I'm glad you brought that in, because we talk a lot about like leveling up. I'll even introduce like the podcast and say like, and this is how they are into the next level in their impact and their income. And it can feel kind of esoteric, you know. But there was something in when you look when you brought up the maturity models that really resonated. I've been trying to figure out. I'm like, it's like an elevator, in my mind. I'm like, it's all still one building, But like if you're on the first floor versus the fourth floor versus the roof, you're on different levels, right? And you can take the stairs or you can just take the elevator and we'll get you up there. And so there's something in the element of maturity models that like really resonates. And it was funny, Jenny, because sometimes I'll talk to my clients. I'm like, okay, so this part right here is a bit immature. Now I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just like it just hasn't had the chance to mature yet. So it really I love the visual that came along with it. Kayla, I see you leaned in. Is there anything else you want to bring in?
No, I think that this is great. I just love how we have our own unique ways of supporting our clients. We're sharing our own journeys. There's so many cross wires, and it just goes to show that I think it's such a privilege to be able to do what we love, even in the challenging moments. I think when we do what we love, it brings out the best version of ourselves. And I think that us showing up and having this conversation today is really illuminating for people, and it's going to give them a different perspective. Because just so the watchers and listeners know, I hadn't met JJ before this conversation. Niiamah and I have already had a conversation, but this was new. So this was new. It was exciting, and I just love how we are more connected than we realize. So that's just what I was just thinking on based on what we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I'm appreciative you brought that in because like we're gonna start wrapping up our overall conversation, but I think that we have enough space here to like bring this like I have the privilege and pleasure of having these podcast panels, right? And I bring together really cool people who are doing really fun things, and we have a real conversation. What's fun for me is as I've done it, I've started to realize like there's a lot of benefit that goes beyond what I thought the initial benefit was. I knew what I was like, oh, it's gonna be for me. I'm gonna be able to promote, and then like people come into my world. I can always meet new people. Who doesn't want to come on a podcast? That was my original thing with it. And then like I started bringing people together in space together. And I recognized that like my mission was coming to life because I'm like, oh, here goes these outliers who are all independently doing their thing. And for a bit, we get to come together and collide and grow and co-create something. Like there's y'all are on this outliers, just so you know, I don't give people a lot of information at all coming into this space at all. Like I literally, when they start off, I'm like, thanks for answering this random guy's email about this random thing that you probably still don't know much about. We're gonna do this and hit record. There's a little bit more prep, but like about 3 minutes more prep. That's about it. But it's because I want to leave room for us to co-create. I want it to be something that we make rather than something that is already formed. There's room for vulnerability. There's room for like risk. Like this is happening in real time, and I really want. I appreciate you, Kayla, for bringing this in because people don't get to see the behind the scenes. They don't get to see like they don't get to get what it's like on the inside. Have y'all been on podcast panels in the past? All right, so JJ, you've done it. Kayla, you haven't, or you hadn't until now, and that's like it's another benefit I look to bring to people where it's like, all right, great. Like next time someone comes around and asks to be on the panel, you know what to do there. If you want to bring your podcast to that or make an offering to your audience, like you know what it's like to have been on the panel, like you know what went right. And even if I blow this whole thing up and do the whole thing wrong, you're like, I'm definitely not doing whatever Niiamah did. That whatever that was not it. But there's a way to do this right, you know? But there's so many, it's the action, it's the experiences and being able to be exposed to new ways to be able to see how you can tweak and get feedback on like on the ideas that you're having. So like we're gonna start wrapping up here. I'm gonna take. I usually at this time I'm like I should close, but I'm like I do want to get your thoughts on it. I do want to get like any thoughts that you had around your experience, any feedback you would have here, something that outliers out there wouldn't get is relevant and germane to like your growth process as a result of being here, or something in line with that. JJ, is there anything that comes to mind for you around this? And let me know if
Yeah,
the question is not formulated properly, and I'll change it up.
I think I got the question. Thank you, Niiamah. And well, the thing that comes to my mind is something similar to what I mentioned about 15 minutes ago, which is business is not only a business game, it's a personal development game, it's a spiritual game, it's a relational game. And thinking from the lens of a game changes the perspective, right? Knowing that this vulnerability is not gonna kill us, it's just a perception of what we are doing. Obviously may harm financially and ego, but besides that, we're gonna be good and we're going to keep playing the game. That is the thing.
I love the game piece so much because I think for me in the beginning days of my business, it was very selfish in the sense like, I just want a business. I just want to quit my 9 to 5. Like, why aren't people buying from me? Like, it was this victim mindset. And when I look back on that, it was just me coming from a place of scarcity, of seeking that external validation and recognition. Like, I want to be successful. Like, I want to hit these goals and help these people. But it wasn't enough about the people. It was, I want to hit these goals, which would fill my bank account and so on. I'm not saying at the time I was super money hungry, but I did have these monetary goals. And now I'm at the point where whether somebody comes in for something free, whether they come in for something paid, I want them to have the same reaction of, holy fuck, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I want you to take this and win. Go and win. That is the game. Everybody wins. Like, how can I make this so lucrative in terms of mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and financially that everybody wins, and it just takes out the drama. It takes out the need for external validation, recognition. It just makes business very simple. And I really love that. And that's a huge realization and breakthrough that I've had, where when my clients get caught up, I want to sign clients, I want to do this. I'm like, how are you being of service? Actually, how are you being of service? And then we start talking about selling, and people get hung up. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to. Okay, selling is selling. I'm selling in this conversation right now. I'm selling you on this perception that I have as I speak into the microphone. It's the same thing. But I tell them, you're not selling, you're giving opportunities. So if I said to you, how many opportunities did you give your audience today in an email, on your Instagram stories, or your posting, LinkedIn, Facebook? How many opportunities did you give them? Oh, I didn't give any, because you're so focused on gaining clients, you forgot that you're actually giving an opportunity. So there's just these little reframes, the game, the opportunities, like making it about being of service. I think that is what changes the whole game of being an entrepreneur.
Ah, all right, y'all. Like Kayla, what's happened right there? That sigh right there is like so much like resonance and also confrontation, right? And I love it. And I'm grateful for it. The confrontation part here for me came back to the element of like how many opportunities. I'm like, oh, I've been focusing on one specific set of opportunities, but there's more opportunities I can give it. They're better opportunities, and I appreciate you all for who you are. I appreciate you all for who you've been on this podcast and how we decided to share in here. We got a chance to really see what it's like to like walk through this journey and to do it to find the components of how we stay in integrity throughout. All right. We're going to wrap up our conversation. And the way that I want to do that here is in 3 ways. One, I'm going to make an ask of you outliers. Outliers, this conversation was fire. And I am young enough to know what fire is. At least I think it is. All right. I'm like, hope I use it in the right context. But regardless, there's someone in your life who this conversation would literally light them up. And so if you do us a favor, go share this message with that one person. I'm happy for you to share it on your platforms, but we have this underlying experiment of like, what would happen if we just took one intentional pass and said, hey, this conversation would be a gift to you. Go listen. So please find one person in your life, share this episode with them, and then we'll continue on from there. I want to make sure that everyone here also, okay, like and JJ gets a chance to go deeper into your worlds. So to do that, we wrap up our conversations in this way. Can you share how outliers can continue the journey with you, and also share one insight that you got as a result of this conversation, something that you're taking away from this conversation? And if there's no insight, you can just be like, I didn't get anything, and that's fine too. That helps me. It gives me some feedback on how to improve this thing, right? Why don't we start with you, JJ, and then we'll go to Kayla, and then we'll be done for today.
Well, outliers, you can find me at jjruescas.com. That is jjruescas.com. I know it's going to be easy with that last name to find me anywhere on social media and mostly in the newsletter. The newsletter is the place at this moment to connect with me, where I present every week 3 topics on human optimization. And the insight is that this week has been specifically very tough for me emotionally, and I was feeling extremely alone. And this conversation, this moment that I had with those 2 individuals here was so profound for me, because I'm not alone. We are not alone. We're never alone. Thank you, Niiamah and Kehla.
Thank you, JJ. Glad
I
to hear
had
it.
chills. You gave
Yeah.
me chills when you said that, not feeling alone. Like that feels like such an honor that we got to create this space and have this conversation and make that difference for you, JJ. That's so cool. So for myself, you can find me mostly on Instagram at Kehla G and also my website, kehlag.com. I have a podcast called Living in Fierce Alignment. There's like over 130 episodes at this point. So lots of wisdom on there, tons of interviews. And yeah, I have an email list as well. I send a lot of emails, like great story emails. I give you opportunities. I sell things, of course. And I just love to connect with people, and I love to do master classes, workshops, and things free. If you want to come join and learn more about human design and gene keys in business, just come find me and connect with me. And you can grab my freebies from my website as well and learn from that too. So thank you so much for having us on. Niiamah, I think I love this conversation. My second time conversing with you, and it's just great. You're a great host. Thank you so much for witnessing us and allowing us to come on here.
Thank you all for playing this game so well. Outliers, go join their worlds. Keep growing. We're not alone in this game, and we have so much to offer. All right. Until the next time we talk, remember this: be you on purpose. Journey on.